I think we're here.
Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Oh,
Tash is number one today. Straight, no hesitation. Chuggles. What will you and Chris Latham have for us today? TV's Chris Latham. I wouldn't give him that much credit, honestly. He's not that popular. Morning, John. Good to see you back from holiday. Yeah, John was absolutely dark brown. Late? We started at 30. Look, they're saying morning at 30. We were here at 30. You're late, Andy. 31.
You're late again, Andy, not us.
Yeah, John was a beautiful golden brown. Where now since he's back from holiday, he's been in Cornwall bodyboarding around the beaches for the last however long. He's looking very nice. What's like these weird crown things?
What about crown? I'm trying to work. Oh god, it's so hard because there's like a 30-second delay between chat and us.
What crown things? Morning, Nikki.
You're gonna have to be
King Chuggles. The term is chestnut.
Oh, chestnut brown.
Oh, chestnut. What crown?
I'm so confused. What crown things he's waffling about?
Have they got like icons in the chat now?
Oh.
Morning, Shelby. Even though she's Shelly here, which is slightly confusing because we got the other Shellys. You might have to see it through the stream. Have you got a little icon next to your name?
It's because we're on StreamYard, so all the chats come through StreamYard, not on.
Yeah, is this new? Are you a subscriber? Are you a subscriber? Does that mean you get a crown? If you want a crown, make sure to subscribe. You know, it's important. You want to be the royalty you are. Lovely jubbly. Yeah, it's a crown icon next to my name. It's actually your subscriber. You get points and ranks in the chat. Oh, that's big.
This is like Twitch all over again. I've been there.
We can start making them compete for prizes. if we start, are you looking on the chat?
Yeah, Tasha sent me. So like, there's you're not gonna be able to see it, but you see those little crowns?
Oh yeah.
Number one, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3.
This is out, and then we can see who's subscribed and not subscribed. And just...
Oh no!
Nice. Well, good morning, everyone. How we doing?
Hopefully, everyone's had a great weekend.
You honestly looking at your stories, you look like you had a great weekend.
Saturday was really good. I bumped into this house clearance guy. I've seen him a couple of times before, but we've never really developed any sort of like conversation or contact or whatever. And he was throwing suitcases down, and I love jumping into a suitcase for clothes because they just like cram everything in. And I picked up this one suitcase, unzipped it, and the first thing I saw was a neatly folded signed Leeds United shirt. So I grabbed that, and then I basically put my bag down so that nobody else could get to the suitcase. And then I had one of my other friends. Yeah. So there was another guy that I know at the car boot, big man. He was he's Polish and he's a big lad, like, and he came over to me and he was like, any good? And it's like an Adidas track jacket, you know, the ones you like, the originals ones you could probably get 20, 35 for or whatever. I was like, yeah. He goes, oh, £3. I was like, cool, yeah, that's a sick find, well done. Like, and I'm trying to go through this, and I'm seeing football shirts. So I'm just grabbing all these football shirts. Then I'm seeing a Paul and Shark wool jacket. I'm like, I'm taking that. Then there was a Fila jacket, and bearing in mind, I've never seen in my entire like reselling like journey so far, I've never seen Fila white line at all. And I was at the car boot and I was mulling over because a guy he had 3 track jackets like up on his car. And I was asking him and he wanted 20 quid a pop. And I thought they were like way more expensive than they actually are. So I was contemplating it. And then when I did the actual search, they were like 40 to 60, depending on which one it was and stuff. And I was like, I'm not paying 20 quid a pop here. And then when I was in this suitcase, I pulled out this Fila white line and I was like, oh, shit. And this guy was charging like £2 or £3 a piece, right? So I was getting that. There was Fred Perry bombers. It was very much like the mod casuals, like guys type.
Do you think he just cleared out a guy?
Yeah. And then the reason why it was definitely mod casuals is because not only did he have it was from obviously somebody from Leeds, because it had all the Leeds football tops, the signed one, Paul and Shark, white line feeler, the Fred Perry, you know, all of this sort of stuff. And then I went round to the back of the car and I said,
sorry to interrupt. John said, signed Leeds shirt, let me know more. Because John's a massive Leeds fan.
Okay, well, there's lots of signatures on this one. I've just got to determine which ones are which is always the hard part. But I said to him, I was like, oh, have you got any more clothes? He's like, yeah, in this suitcase. So I was like, I'm just going to put my bag around the back. And Tasha does the universal nod for check this out is right. And she was doing that to the back of the car. And there was about, I want to say 15 pairs. Well, there was about 10 boxed Adidas trainer boxes. And I went to look at them, and my big man mate was like, I just put them there. And I was like, oh, he's bought them. And then he goes, no, they're not bought. They're still for sale. I was like, how much? He goes, £3 a piece. I didn't even look. I went, yep, I'll take all of them. He was like, what? I was like, yep, take all of them. So I started looking through different colorways, different everything. And then I pulled off the boxes and there was a few more pair of trainers. And I was like, And then I basically took everything back to the van and I was like, do you get much like in the way of clothing? He was like, oh, mate, it's so random. And it's the house clearance guy, right? So he's probably got 700 people that ask him this question every week. But yeah, like that was a crazy deal. And then the week before, there was a woman at the local car boot that used to go to the one that was way further away. And I bought some dresses off her previously, and Tasha got talking to her at last week's car boot. And she basically just said, oh, do you know what? Just give me she goes, I'll write my name down, my number and all this sort of stuff. Just WhatsApp me. And Tasha was like, yeah, sounds. So I wasn't with her, like on her own, built a little contact. And then yesterday we'd organized to go and see her after the car boot. She'd sent me a bunch of photos of stuff, and I said out of the 12 that she sent, I wanted like 7 or 8 of them.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, and it was all greasers, it was all disintegrate jackets. I mean, if anyone saw my story, like there was a section dedicated to the stuff that I picked up from her. And basically, she said, "Oh, if I come to you, I'll bring them with you. But if you come to me, I'll just get everything I've got, and you can just look through it again." I was like, "Same." So I went to her. I ended up buying 17 items, £10 a piece. £170 spent, and she's a school teacher. Her house is in the middle of nowhere. It's massive, really, really nice. And I basically just said to her, look, we want as much as we can get. So whenever you get anything you think that I might be interested in, just holler at me and we'll do a deal. And of course, she bailed on the car boot and didn't have to get up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. And still made 170 quid that day off the stuff that she'd sold. And then just before that, we'd been to a charity shop where I picked up a Barbie DVD set that sells for 150 quid. It's missing one DVD, so I could still get like 80 to 100 for it, or I can try and source the single DVD, add it to the thing, and then try and go for the 150 to 200, which is like the higher end sort of stuff. But yeah, really interesting. Clips, it is a gaming rig behind me. Yeah, sorry.
I mean, is it? It's not meant to be now, is it?
Well, it is. It's got like a RTX 1080.
Oh, yeah, it's a Razer, isn't it?
No, that's just a sticker that I got from my mouse. But that runs Call of Duty at like 160 FPS on max settings, so it still does what it. So I bought it for work, but there might be a little bit of gaming that gets used out of that bad boy as well.
Yeah, but then he's going to realize he's terrible and give up quickly.
Oh, I haven't played Call of Duty or any games like that for 2 years now, maybe even longer. So
speaking of you being terrible at things.
Oh yeah, we could cycle into this as well.
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, last week I worded some things terribly when it came to a conversation, and I just wanted to say that not quite what I meant. What I actually meant was that I've noticed that in Influx, and a lot of people starting their reselling journey and stuff like that. So yeah, that was kind of what I meant. I'm not great with words. I said this to Benji actually when we started the podcast. Was that he's great at thinking on his feet. I'm the sort of person that needs somebody to ask me a question. I'll mull over it for a week, come back, and we'll be able to have an educated conversation. But in the moment, my words fail me sometimes.
It's not the great best wording at all.
I potentially annoyed a few people, and that was not my intention, and it wasn't quite what I meant. But I said it wrong, so.
No. What you're saying, to be fair, it's surprised it took you 23 episodes to say something stupid.
I was going to say we did say this because, like, I'm so bad that, like, sometimes, like, my brain goes too fast and I don't think about what I say, so I say things that just like come out all wrong. So
there you go. Sometimes everyone messes up, but yeah. Okay. In terms of gaming and stuff like that, are you gonna? What if you fall back into the dark deep hole?
Actually, I'm not going to. But so kind of leading into the conversation for today, really, which is like, am I getting it all wrong? Do I know what I'm doing? So while you were away, I've been, for anyone who doesn't know, I've been listing 25 a day for a couple of months now. I brought my brother in to do the listings for me. And I basically did this mathematical equation in my head that said, on average, this year, I have sold 14 items per day. If I sell those 14 items per day for £30, and my average cost of goods is about £9, right? How many more items and what can I do with that spare money between cost of goods and sales, right, of 14? What level can I get up to with what I've currently got in terms of having my brother involved, my pay, like Tasha's pay, and then obviously how many items I could. And it worked out that I could get 25 items and pay my wages, Tasha's wages, and my brother's wages, and list 25 items every single day in terms of. But that meant that the bank was like every month it was just like
zero,
no profit, no loss, like give or take maybe £100, right? Like either way. And I come to the realization that it wasn't moving the needle as quickly as I wanted, because prior to listing 20, I was listing 10, and that's kind of where I pushed up to 20, and then I started selling 14, and then I pushed up to 25. And I feel like, is there so the question was to a lot of people, but like, do you feel like the journey that you're on is the right journey in terms of how you're doing? Because it's all inputs and outputs, right?
Okay, what is your question? Because
my question is, when do you know that how do you know that the inputs that you're doing right now are going to get you to the destination that you in future you want? And like, so my thought process over the last few weeks has been like, I know I'm doing okay, like it's fine, but am I doing what is necessary right now to get to the point where I want to be in terms of my life, right? And I don't know that, because if anyone doesn't know, motorhome, traveling, no work, like 10 years. That's what I want to do, right? But am I doing now what I would need to do to get to that time in 10 years? And how long do I leave it where it's sort of plateauing before I go, actually, I need to change something? So I think that's where
my first, just if anyone's wondering why I'm also confused, because I asked him so this was his topic for the podcast today. So yes. I asked him what it was, and he was like, I like to surprise you. So I didn't know exactly what was going on either, and this is the question. So you're basically saying, how long sitting at the same thing do you wait to... Okay, are you saying that? So Kaylee's put in the chat there that you're listing 27, saying 14, you should be listing 25 and selling 25. Are you saying it because you're not selling 25 and you're listing 25, that you feel like something's not quite right and you don't know if you should wait and leave it or do something about it? So
within the group, we have like a massive structure of people that are all on different journeys, right? Like, one of the things I look at from scalability, right, is you've got yourself, who is, I would say, slightly below me in terms of listings, right? Like I'm doing a lot more listings, but you're doing like 10 a day, right? But then you're listing 10 a day, selling 10 a day with a good profit margin. Then you've got somebody like Kaylee who's listing 20, selling 20, right? And that's like a sort of like average selling of like. So then I think to myself, how long have I got to wait before? Because I believe that the items I'm currently getting are the best that I've ever purchased, right? Like they're the best. Mm-hmm. So in my head, I'm like, well, if I'm listing 25, why am I not selling 25? How long do I leave it? And is there an element that maybe going back to 20 and focusing more on sell-through rate and quality is going to be beneficial for me than just constantly going at 25 and trying to get to 25? Do you know what I mean? So I'm having this internal dilemma based around the fact that I'm not quite sure how long to leave things. And then if you wanted to go like real deep, like, is what I'm currently doing going to get me to the very end goal of traveling and motorhome and all that sort of stuff? Like, I don't know. So like, I'm really sort of going through like a crisis of trying to work out what I'm doing and if I'm doing it in the correct way. I've got, and so I'll let you talk, and then I'll come back with something else. I've got something else as well.
Okay. So I do think Tasha's right over here, to be honest, slightly, that I do think it's been timed pretty, like, if you're looking to judge it now, I think this is the worst time of year to judge whether or not it's actually like you're significantly jumped up in the way you want to. And again, I also don't think you've been going for that long. But on the contrary to that, I'd say it depending on what your items are, if you think they're the best you've ever got, and you're looking at sell-through rate and all the sell-through is very, very good on them, then it should make a reasonably big impact quickly. Like how long it takes to make an impact is solely dependent on how fast the new items you're adding are selling. So if you, for example, generally speaking, if you want to go by rules of thumb, it's going to take you however long your average sell-through rate is to catch up in sales. Like that's generally how it works. But if you've got your average sell-through and now you're putting in items that are really, really good, like that have a much quicker average sell-through rate. So for example, say it's like it goes from 3 months to like a month and a half. Like that's how good the items are. Then realistically, that's how long it should take you. So I think you can generally have an idea. I think you 100% at least wait till whenever your average sell-through rate is, which you can figure out yourself, whatever. But outside of that, in terms of assessing it properly, I think you need to you give yourself some time for sure. I think you got to take into account the variables. So for example, even if you think you're picking up the best items ever, are they the best? They could be really good items, but are they more winter items? Like, does that mean, hey, we've been picking up a load of jackets and coats. These are bangers, but they're not going to sell now. So I'd say that's one thing. And then obviously the time of year, like in terms of sales. Funnily enough, so obviously I've been reaching out to the stylists and stuff, but one of them came and told me, she was like, August is just a complete write-off for everyone in fashion. She was like, loads of the warehouses shut down, loads of the supply, like the manufacturers and the suppliers shut down, loads of the supply chain shut down, and people are not looking in the same way they are every other time of year. And for example, lots of people I've tried to call are on holiday. Like all the stylists are on holiday because no one works now because it's just not worthwhile, apparently.
You'd have thought they were getting themselves ready for winter, right? Like you'd have thought they'd maybe be starting.
No, that's September. They're the same, literally the exact same as us. They're like September, really good. Everything starts up again. In August, we're not paying attention because it's that transition period. But forget all that, right? That's crazy. That makes no sense, Harry.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, how do you know you're going in the right direction, right? I think as long as if you want to go really simple, as long as you're making progress, you're going in the right direction, right? You might not be doing it the best way possible, but I don't think the path to getting there is linear. I think it's going to be up, it's going to be down. You're going to make a correction here. You might do something wrong over here. But it's all going the right direction. As long as you're making progress and kind of moving up, then I don't think there's any problem.
So to jump in, I think that's kind of where I'm struggling because I've said to you lots of times, right? Like I've gone up and down, and I always feel like since I very first started, we've tried to increase and try to go up all of the time. So it feels like progress, even maybe if I'm shooting myself in the foot and having to come back down, it feels like I'm progressing, learning, coming back down. Progressing, learning, coming back down, and then I felt like in terms of getting the items, by the way, not an issue. Like it's been fine. I've got a good I've actually got a quite pretty healthy backlog. Like I'm not desperate for stock all of the time, which I thought I would be at 25. But actually, what I'm finding is that the days are very similar, and they're not similar in the sense that. So if I was currently buying 25, selling 25, right, and it was similar, obviously I'm going to be happy. Like that's a great place to be. But because I'm listing 25 to selling 14, and it's been that way for the last maybe 2.5 months, I'm now going, well, actually, this is similar, but there isn't any. I'm not seeing it. This weekend, for instance, I think I did 500s, 800, and 500. So in terms of me, solid weekend and stuff like that. But I'm not, other than Saturday, which was 26 sales for the day, like I don't think I've ever gotten close to 20 in one day. Like it's usually like 17 is usually the most I get. And then what tends up to happen then is the next day I'll get like 9 because I've overextended myself, and then it comes back down a little bit. So it kind of all evens out a little bit. And I think that's what I'm struggling with more than anything is that mentally I'm sitting here. So if for some people that don't know, I'm at this place where I want to plateau and I want to sit and I want to let everything build up to the point where I'm doing what I'm doing now. Try and get to 25, right? That's the dream. But because I'm not extending myself in that way, I push myself into another project, right? And then I've been working hard on that. But then that I've been doing the maths on potential for that. And then I'm like, oh, well, that's going to over exceed that. So now I'm like, my brain's going, well, maybe I could come back down to 15 or 10. And then that would take a lot of, you know what I mean? So this is where my brain goes into like 400 different roads.
Firstly, I think Kaylee does also have a point here, is in terms of increasing your sales and stuff like that, is making sure you have a good markdown strategy is interesting. Because
that's something we talked about in the group. And I went in, Saturday was the first day of doing it. I went in and I 70%ed, like just taking off the price. So anything that was priced at like £30, I dropped it all the way down to like £12.99 on some of the items. I was like, I am happy to, with the free postage and fees, I'm happy to get my money back. We've discussed this. I'll take my money and I'll run. I'll like whatever I invested, I'll take that back and I'll run. And a lot of the time, I'm not spending more than like £7 an item. So it's very much, it was hit and run. I sold a lot, and obviously I've got a 20% coupon on, by the way, at the same time. So I'm selling a lot of this junk now, like the lesser items. And I sold like 5 or 6 of them over this weekend, so that was really good. And I'm gonna implement a similar strategy with a lot of the dresses that aren't. So I've got a lot of thick, like more woolly type or thick dresses that could probably still go for another month or so. But a lot of the more summery ones, I'm gonna 50% those, try and catch a little bit at the end fall there. And stuff like that.
I'm telling you, it feels so good. Like when you're actually doing a markdown strategy and stuff, and like 50% of your old stock is selling and 50% of your new stock is selling, it just feels great because that's
what's been like this weekend. It's been fantastic to see. Although I know that I'm not losing money. I guess essentially I am because I've been storing it for maybe like 3 months or 6 months or whatever. But yeah, in terms of just getting that money back, I'm starting to realize that I'm okay doing that right now. I don't need the money. Like it sounds horrible. Like I don't need the money. I haven't got loads of it, but I'm at a very steady point where like everything that goes in comes out. Do you know what I mean? I'm not like bludgeoning money anywhere. So for me, I'm not desperate, and I'm not even desperate for space now. So this is where it got difficult for me because I got the second unit. And to be honest with you, inside of the second unit is a package in place, my trainers, and then 7 empty racks because I've been focusing on clearing out some of the other stuff. And it's just, so it's all a bit weird.
Don't you worry about the space. I'm sure that will get there at some point. You'll need it at some point, and you'll be happy.
When I start listing my electricals, I'll need it. Trust me. I've got so much.
Sometime today, yeah. But in terms, so with the other thing you're talking about though, which is very interesting, is that I think we talked about it in the group last week as well. Is basically the idea of we're talking about like limits on reselling at different levels in terms of how much you could make from it. And someone suggested that basically, hey, if you think what you're doing has a limit on it, why not go start something else that you view to have a higher limit? And my rebuttal then, and probably the same now, right, is there is probably always something you will think or envision to be a better way to make money or an easier way, or like there's more opportunity there, stuff like that. But I think a lot of if you actually listen to a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff like that, a lot of them just say stick with it. It's just timing and sticking with it and doing it until you can't anymore. And like that is the difference maker between someone who is genuinely successful and someone who falls before the final hurdle, right? In terms of really making it to where they want to. So even though you might do all the math and the calculations and be like, oh, I could start this business and this would make more sense and I could make more money over here. The best thing to do is just pick one to be consistent with. And even if you think there's a limit, because of all the time you've put in and the way you've built up to it, there's always a way to figure out how to break the limit or break past the limit. Yeah, it might take some extra work or whatever, and it might seem easier somewhere else, but I think everywhere else just has their own challenges. Plateau of latent potential. That sounds unbelievably fancy.
That sounds like a statement.
So the plateau of latent potential. In my head, what that means is something to do have a ceiling, though. That's a fact. I mean,
I guess plateau is the latent potential. So plateauing, and then all of a sudden, I guess the latent potential is there's a latency lag, and then all of a sudden the potential starts to come. So that's my understanding of it. So it's plateauing there, and then all of a sudden there's some latent potential, and then it shoots up at some point. But my rebuttal to this is there is a far higher percentage of businesses that fail and burn out than there are that are successful. And some of those people that do fail and aren't successful are doing what we're doing in terms of just consistency, but they're doing it wrong. And then so that's where I'm at the moment, is where do you get to the point where you make sure you're doing the right thing, and how do you understand that is the right thing? Because you can plateau all the way until burnout and death, right? Like, it's just not
okay.
Like, I am, by the way, I'm under the guise of I will never quit, but like, because I don't want to be a failure. Like, I won't fail because I won't quit. I'll continue doing this until I die, essentially, if it doesn't work.
Okay, different thing, right? So I think that firstly, it's funny, it's from Atomic Habits. Secondly, I'd say that situation is more understanding when you're okay. I get what you're saying. So understanding when you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Right. So
because it's great having people, like, I've got people around me in terms of the group, like, I can speak to people, and there's a lot of people out there that have got a difference in opinion, right? But the issue with that is that everybody's got a difference in opinion. So you never know. Like, if there is one mode fixes all, then everybody would be successful, and that's just not the way it is. So at some point, it's got to work for you and your situation, because again, the person who's done it all and completely repeats the same thing, like, this is how I did it. Your life is different to theirs in a multitude of ways. So you can't always implement it exactly the same. You can put some things into place, but there is just a part of me every now and then. And by the way, I don't necessarily think I'm doing it wrong, but that's kind of why I think this in the first place, because I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. But am I doing something wrong? Because it isn't meeting to my potential now, or am I just being impatient? Like, which is probably
okay. My actual answer is yes. That's
kind of probably,
because I think when you're doing something, okay, this is what I was saying about progression, right? I think there's a difference between plateauing and like not doing any better, and then declining, right? Like, I think this is the thing. I think people stick with a dying animal longer than they should. So for example, if you can take your business model, right, and you can take your business as a whole, and you look at it and go, hey, is there a reason why this could not be successful in the future, right? Is this still a viable model? So for example, if you, in COVID, you decided to buy a load of gas masks. If you decided to buy a load of face masks and like hand sanitizer, and you look at that and you go, you're doing very well right now, and then it starts to decline, and you go, hey, is this got longevity here? Is this going to make sense in like a bit of time? And then suddenly all these people are stuck with a load of stuff, right? You need to be aware of the trajectory of your business. And you were asking earlier, like, how do you know you're doing the right thing, and how do you know what steps to take? You can figure basically everything out. I think the only thing that kind of factors in here is, like, people have talked about eBay being dying and Vinted picking up. It's like, am I sticking with eBay too long? Should I be transferring over and learning how to do something different or whatever? But I think until you can really see signs, and like you pay attention to the signs of a sinking ship, that's when you know you might need to change course or change ship or go in for repairs might be the best option, to be honest with you. But I think if you want to project out your business, you can. Like that. This was actually in last book club which was interesting conversation on Friday, is understand what your goal is, and then work backwards. This has been talked about a lot. Work backwards from there, and then understand what steps your business needs to be taking in what time frame to get there. And if you are on track for that, then fantastic. If you're exceeding that, fantastic. If you're slightly behind that, maybe you need to do something to catch up to where you want to be. But outside of that, I think realistically, if you don't have a specific goal and specific targets you want to hit all the time, you just focus on putting steps in the right direction and keep aware of if you're going to have problems or problems that are coming up, then you're fine, in my opinion.
So I've reverse engineered like I say this all the time. 55 is when I want to be said and done, right? Like that I want to go and do 5 years of traveling before I am 60 and potentially I've got knackered backs, I've got knackered hip, like I've got some physical things that are going on. So ultimately, like 60 to 65 is probably going to be where I'm starting to struggle a little bit. So 55 is a hard cut off for me.
Then you fire the youth.
Yeah, so like obviously there's potential, but obviously with the side project and stuff like that, then I'm obviously dedicating a lot of hours to this at the moment, so that's kind of distracting me. So it's all kind of all over the place because I'm like it's like a shiny new thing, right? Like it's a shiny new object of things that I feel like could do well, and I think a lot of it is patience. I think I pretty much know it's patience, a lot of it, because even though I've got what am I now, 38? I've got a 55. What's that? 17 years. I've essentially got a 17-year plan, and I've implemented
lots of time.
And I've implemented this 17-year plan 3 months ago, and I'm already stressing that it's not going in the way I want. And I think a lot of that is the patient side of it, and I think a lot of it maybe is that in my head I had dreams of grandeur, and maybe I do it at 50. So actually that takes 5 years off, and maybe because ultimately, right, I say this all the time, like I'm older than you by like what, 10 years, and you're way much more chilled out. Like you work, you do what you need to do, but in general you're a way more chilled out and reserved kind of character, right? Mm-hmm. And the person that I kind of sort of like think about the most when I think about my situation is probably Simon, who's an older chap, and he's very much got the similar mindset to me, which is I'm older, so I need to push harder. Now that he's a little bit older than I am, but I feel like maybe I've got that sort of like frustration and mentality when it comes to wanting to get it done as quickly as possible. And I think that's the issue that's causing me to make mistakes and potentially forget about the patient side of things. And yeah, that's kind of where I think that's where I'm falling short a little bit, because ultimately, like, the business is fine, like it's absolutely fine. But I want it to be doing better, and I know everybody does, but I have this weird thing in my brain that doesn't want me to settle right now. It needs to be constantly doing.
Do you think you're so obviously you said you feel like it's like a time constraint or whatever. Do you think you're fearful of something?
a little bit too deep for me on a morning. Oh, mate, I'm fearful of loads, mate, like legit. I think this is going to get real deep for a second, but I can't actually.
Okay, no problem. Out of interest, so 17 years is a massively long time. I also think you can have a 17-year like trying to push towards a goal, but obviously I think Harry is definitely an advocate for living it, and generally so am I, in terms of being present and kind of enjoying yourself along the way, because 17 years is a fucking long time to dedicate to the goal and not pay attention to anything else. Because there's a lot of things you can do with your life in 17 years, and I don't forget to kind of go about it along the way and enjoy that aspect of things. But I think having a goal, and it's something that I've been hesitant to do, or not even hesitant to do, just hasn't really connected with me as such as having like a long-term goal. And I don't know for me if that's like the idea of committing to something too strongly and not knowing where my path's going to lead. So it's something I'll find with my friends a lot of the time is they'll ask me to make plans in the future, and I'm always like, yeah, it should work, right? I never say like a hard yes a lot of the time. It's very infrequent that I will ever give a hard yes, because I don't know. It's stupid to say, but I don't. even in 3 months' time, right? They're like, oh, could you do this? I'm like, yeah, probably. Because who knows what comes up. And I view that with almost everything. And I think I find that when committing to goals, like you don't know how your path's going to go. And for example, you might have this 17-year goal, and yeah, your plan is to hit it in 17 years, but maybe you've got delusion of grandeur, right? But you could blow up in a matter of months, like stupidly, right? Or it could take longer. Like you don't know exactly how it's going to go, but I think leaving it to kind of go where you want to go and see how it goes. To be honest with you, because that's my sort of aspect. But I think having that
I struggle with the not having a direction. So the reason why I like to set goals is because if I didn't, I'd revert back to older self probably, and I'd probably spend a lot of time computer chilling, playing some video games, like because I've not got a perceived destination, whereas now I've got a perceived destination of something that I want to do. So regardless of whether that destination changes or not, I feel like if I implement the changes and implement the things that make me want to get to that destination, regardless of whether the destination changes, the ability to do, if I can garner enough money to go traveling for the last 20 years of my life, then I have already achieved the things. So even if I don't want to do the traveling side of things, I'm already in a much better place because I've just put myself on that road of getting better. I was going to say before, my fear in general, now that I've manned up a little bit, is genuinely just failure. Failure is a big thing for me. Like I really struggle.
Really? Out of interest, well, we could go into it more deeply if you like. But fear of failure is an interesting one. That's really stupid because because we had a whole different podcast where we talked about how good failure can be for your life and how much you're going to learn and improve situations. So, and the fact that failure isn't really failure. Unless
I think it's more. It's not necessarily like look. We started this entire business off a £350 sale on a camera, and we've built it up to where we are now, where we're paying free salaries and whatever. Like I'm not asked. I've always said if this whole thing goes to shit, I'll just go and work a job like I had before. It doesn't make any difference. But actually, I've said this to Tasha a lot, and it's slightly interesting, but. My one of my biggest things in life is I don't want to be born and die in the same time. Like I don't want to. Do you know like the feeling of not growing or doing anything different? Like I've been to France, so it's the only place I've ever been that's outside of the UK. I don't really do a lot of things around the UK. I've been to Scotland once maybe, but so I have this underwhelming fear that I'm going to be born in this town and I'm going to die in this town and I'm not going to have experienced or done anything in the process. So I think that's where like there's this drivenness to me that makes me want to get to a point where I can do like that's why the traveling's the goal, right? Because I'm like I want to get out there and experience some shit before I die. Like that's kind of and there's a lot of people like Harry that do it now. And that's great. And I always say to Harry, like, if I didn't have kids, it would be the same. I would be Harry now. Like, I would be trying to make my business work in a way where I can source it in different countries, etc. And I've got an 18-year-old now and a 15-year-old, so we're only a few years away from like being able to maybe implement that. But I think that the failure is more just a worry and a thing that I'm gonna just be the person that I was when I started and not grow and not experience things. And yeah, it's slightly deeper and a bit more weird.
So firstly, I'd say you already have. Like it's obviously in terms of what you're saying about like experiencing and everything outside that, maybe not. But in terms of growing and like being different to who you were previously, I feel like undoubtedly you probably have. Right, like I think if you look back at yourself and for example, you pointed the gaming system behind you. If you look back fucking 10 years, you were doing fuck all. You were doing absolutely fuck all, and the tax like you hated you. And now you could. I don't even think you probably recognize the guy you were before and how his brain worked compared to you now. And you've probably swung pretty far in the opposite direction. Realistically, is what you've done, and it might be because of the fear of falling back to whoever you were before.
That's a big one.
I think that I understand that, and I think that's a different form of failure, right? I think failure to you there is regressing to who you were previously, but I think that's literally impossible. I would say there's just no way you're going to go back to being who you were previously. And I think realistically, with who you are now, what you've learned, and how just who you've become, that you don't just because you fail something or you fail a business or whatever, then you're never going to go back to being who you were previously. I think that's the beauty of it, like moving forward in life and growing but I understand the fear of going back there.
Yeah. Do you have a fear that drives you to doing what you're doing? Like, obviously, I've got some underlying roots probably somewhere that need to be resolved. But in terms of you, if you got anything that's pushing, like, so I think is it Stephen Bartlett says like a lot of the time there's a difference between being pushed and dragged or pushing and dragging. So like a lot of the time I feel like I'm being dragged by my brain, but like into like. Do you feel like you're like I'm loving every minute of this and I'm pushing my way forward because this is ultimately what I do, or are you being dragged along by the fact that you're just doing what we're doing?
So if we go, okay, be just open about it. I just like being open about how we feel and stuff now. I do think my brain's just a little bit broken, in the sense that I almost don't think anything. It's quite strange, really. Like I don't think past, and I don't think like I can think about the future and like hypothesize about it and kind of, for example, that Shelby and Andrew were talking about, Andy were talking about they were planning their retirement, and they're talking about planning their future in a different way. Like they're planning like saving up and make sure they've got the thing behind them. They're still like living their life in a different way. Like you're talking about 17 years, I'm going to work and then I retire. They're talking about, okay, I just want to make sure I've set myself up for retirement. Like I can think logically about something like that. But in terms of me thinking or worrying about my future or my past, I find it really difficult. I can't hold on to anything. Past or future, I find it very difficult to hold on.
Do you think that gives you a better or a worse, like when you're thinking about your like life in general with business and stuff? Do you think that gives you an advantage or a disadvantage? Because you've got the ability, obviously, to disassociate with a lot of stuff. But then if you've got no overarching, like, fucking, let's get here, do you think then, like, that stops you from committing to doing more? Because I know, obviously, we've spoken before about you doing 10 a day and then you wanted to go up, but then you've not really committed to it. There's no overarching goal to commit to. Do you think that overall, if you were to look at it, do you think it's a positive or a negative?
I've looked at this a lot of the times because even without a business, well, mostly outside of the business sense, right? Like in a business sense, in terms of like big progression, or like in terms of, it depends what you count as like being successful in business, right? Because if you count being successful in business, it's progressing your business like to the point, like continuously progressing your business in some sort of way. I'm very bad at that. Like I actually think a massive benefit to me, again, I've said this before, has been the group and people around me to talk to, because I like to do all that and kind of talk about things. It keeps things in my brain, and I'm constantly having conversations where my brain is occupied by thoughts of progression, weirdly, right? But in terms of myself, I don't really have any thought, and I think overall in a business sense, it's probably negative. I think it allows me to be very collected and like probably think quite clearly and make good decisions. But in terms of actually progressing and having the drive, it's because I think that's one of the number one things you need to have really build a business, is that drive behind you and that commitment to keep going and like push for something, or drag for something. I really don't think it matters, in my opinion. Yeah, you might. The only issue with dragging sometimes is you're left a bit empty at the end, in some way, shape, or form, because the thing that's dragging you continues to drag you forever, but if you don't make it stop. But for me, it's very neutral. Like you end up, I can end up in a good place and then stop, and then I don't go any further. But I struggle. I really do struggle with like that side of things, and I don't know. It's
because I personally wish I was a little bit like, I'm too far gone in one direction, and I feel like sometimes like I always revolve around you and Harry as like the two people that I talk to a lot, and I love speaking to, because you two specifically are way more chilled, way more thoughtful about how far you've come, how far you've, like all these sorts of things. So I like having you two around me. It balances me a little bit more. So like having your sort of mindset and Harry's is obviously, there's a couple of other people that are probably further up than I am in terms of like direction and consistent like thoughts about that sort of thing. But yeah, having you and Harry that are like the two people that like sort of, every time I chat to you guys, I always feel infinitely better, like straight afterwards, about how I'm doing with life, if that makes sense. Like it feels great. I would love to be in a space in your head. That's where I would be.
The thing is, you not how I'm going to just call you out as well, because fuck it. But you have pushed your business further than both of us because of some of those struggles you have to deal with, and you still want to. Like me and Harry are both pretty chill. Like that, we are very chill, and we're like, oh yeah, we like it's good and things are going well. But because of the what you've had going on, you pushed yourself harder to make something happen, and without that, fear or like those thoughts, you wouldn't get to where you were. So it is kind of a catch-22. And even, for example, Harry is pretty good at retrospective thinking. Like, hey, I've done well. I struggle with that. Like, although I know, like, I can logically say, hey, look, no, we've done. I don't think about it still. Like, I don't think I've come anywhere or gone anywhere. It's weird. It's like, yeah, each step of the journey is just what it is. And as you go along for me, and like whatever's just happening that day is happening that day. It's kind of stupid. But on the going back a second, is you were talking about like traveling and stuff like that, and going away is something that gave me a little bit of perspective, because I like traveling and I like doing things and I like activities, but I won't plan anything because I don't have that like thing. But going away, I came back and I'm like, there's so many things that in life make you go, hey, I need money. It's really stupid, right? Like there's so many things in life, although I don't care about money and it's not something that I really like gravitate towards. There's so many things you look at, and I think maybe this is why people do gravitate, because they make a harder connection here, that I need money to do. Like if I really want to live life in a free way, money is such a big necessity that it's impossible to avoid. And I came back from holiday with like multiple things that I was thinking about. Hey, like I don't care that I need to progress. I need the money. Like I need to get myself in a mind state that I need to change something to put myself in a better position for living life. And trying to like deal with that. I would say my brain low-key works like those 3 a.m. moments of inspiration to go to the gym. Like that's like how my brain works constantly. And then I just find it hard to grab onto after that. But I'm trying myself now as well to kind of take the next steps or make something different happen. And sometimes it's just because, like right now, it's just because I think it's interesting. Again, I also love that about business and doing this. And maybe that's, again, you said you were stuck out of that space. Like you weren't fully engrossed in what you were doing because it's all kind of the same. And therefore you wanted to find something to occupy that drive to do something. And mine is more on like, oh, what's interesting? And that might be, like all sorts of things about my mind. Right now, obviously I'm doing what I'm doing this way because I'm interested. I want to see what happens if I do it, more than I'm like, oh, I need to progress my business. I'm like, oh, what happens if we do this? Where does this go? Rather than anything else. But then also at the side, I've been watching a load of, basically when I went to Australia, there's an island with a museum on it that's fully funded. This is going to sound so that's fully funded by gambling winnings, right? This guy, he owns it's called the Mona, and it's probably the best museum and gallery I've ever been to. It's in Tasmania, and it's the whole, it's like a little island. It's fully funded by gambling winnings. It's got to be millions and millions to own what he does in there. And I looked into what he did a bit, and then and basically the guy next door that also runs a poker place. At the moment, I'm low-key like, can I be a professional poker player? That sounds kind of interesting. That's the other side of my interest at the moment. One is like trying to figure out what I'm doing here and like see where that goes. And the other side of things is like, professional poker looks like something I could do. So yours might be your side project or whatever with what you're doing. Mine's, I feel like I could do this.
To be fair, though, that is a similar sort of thought process that I have, like quite on a consistent basis. Like I was big, like I did business plans and applied for loans to do a storage container business, like maybe 2 months ago, and I did that for like a week, and then I completely forgot about it, and I haven't thought about it since. And then I've been working on other things, like, so my brain does a lot of this where I go, oh, that sounds like a really interesting thing. I'll do the thing of like hyper focusing on that specific thing, learn as much as I can about it, try and implement it in the first like 3 days. If that doesn't materialize, I've hyper focused on something else and I'm doing something else. The only thing that's kept me sort of like sane is the reselling world in general. And obviously like eBay's kept me on it for like the last like 4 years or whatever. And even the side project, like that's been so interesting to me that I've kept the focus on that, when I feel like sometimes I could quite easily just dip the focus on that and try and focus on something else. But I would be interested to see when the next thing pops up in my brain and goes, I can do that, whether I ditch something. Do you know what I mean? Like how many things
will, man. Like
I know this is where I struggle.
Probably will. Genuinely, I just think it's, if that's how you're built, sometimes it's hard. I'd like to know if in the chat, if we've got like 30 people in here, what side are we on? And are we shiny object in terms of like, that's how our interest works. We get hyper focused on one thing or another, or there are also people in here who are really good at the opposite, which is sticking to one thing, focus on it hard, and you kind of don't waver as much. Maybe you can probably still waver at points in terms of, you know, doing well and badly in terms of focus, but in terms of like your main priority and kind of keeping yourself on track with that, where are we at? Do people kind of relate to what we're saying, or is it like, I don't know how many people are like, because I feel like it's quite a lot, and I also feel like it's gotten worse. I'd say this is like an attention thing, and something staying interesting.
I think for me as well, like the older I've got, the more potential I think I've realized is open. So like the side project, for instance, which is a secret, which is why we've not said what it is. But that project 10 years ago, I would never in a million years thought that it was possible for me to do something like that. Not without spending an absolute fortune on getting people to do it for me, which obviously I didn't have at the time.
Sorry, before I forget, sorry to interrupt. This is the other thing that's got me thinking about money, is like, because of ideas like you've had, right? Yeah. All I can think about is, hey, if I just had money, I'd make everything happen. Yes. Like it's so stupid, but like everything, I can make everything happen. It's money is just like, for example, all the side businesses, and for example, if you make yourself a business, your original business that's money generating or whatever, and you've actually got some good cash flow and life is sweet in that way, then you can just take whatever thing you're thinking about, and realistically, you don't have to try and do all these things and how to focus on how to make it work or anything like that. If you just get good at hiring people and picking the right people and understanding how to run a business, then you can just throw money at almost anything and build whatever company you like. And that's very exciting to me. Like the idea of like the ideas that I've come across in my head and that run through, for example, like yourself, that like you might get one of these. But say, for example, you had the money to start a storage business and you could hire the people to help you. You might, in the brief moment that you might just set it up, and then you just have another, and then it would keep you accountable by itself, or whatever. it just makes it. I'm always interested. That's another thing in terms of like
money makes the world go round. Unfortunately, like if I want to do anything interesting, and also I think there's an element to. I know I said 55 and done for the traveling side, but ultimately 55 and done in terms of physical like eBay like day-to-day things. Whereas like you could have the storage business, have somebody run it for you. And it's not like I haven't got that. Like I would still have money being generated for me whilst I was away. But I think you need a bigger influx of money initially to do a lot of the stuff, like buy the vans. Vans are like 65 grand these days, like they're crazy. So I think you need a decent amount of money to get it started. But ultimately, further down the line, that's kind of what I'm thinking is like, if I can create one or two, maybe even three things that are asides where I can just have meetings every week, like 1 or 2 meetings a week, and just go traveling and somebody else deals with it. As long as you're making enough money to pay everybody to deal with it for you, like you're still going to be making money. And I think that's something that it's the whole passive income. There is no truly passive income, at least as far as I can think of. You've always got to do something, but having the minimal, like the baseline of things that if you had to do 5 meetings a week, but could do whatever you wanted, and they were an hour long each one, like 5 hours a week, like everyone's blessed. Like you're not stressed about that, are you? And I think that's kind of the goal. Obviously, it's difficult. It's not going to be easy, but yeah, like I think that overall is the goal. Joe made a really good point here, actually. By the way. Just as a side note,
I haven't pulled a comment up in ages.
That's the first time in a while.
Been doing this 4 years. Don't want to start something new and rebuild when it's going great. Uninformed confidence mean you think it's better than what you've got. The 100%. That's what I'm saying. It's the grass is greener, isn't it? It's like you don't know the struggles of whatever you're thinking about until you're in it. No. Right, like you don't know how hard things are going to be. You don't know how things are going to go, until you're in it. And again, it just seems beautiful over there, but it's probably got its own problems, its own shit you need to over. For example, with like we were talking about different business models the other day, and we're talking about the people that have like a niche audience that they sell to, and it looks really good. Like they can just sell whatever they want to them. But they've put their struggle was building the fucking audience. Like your struggle may be, hey, I need to find good stuff to source. Their struggle is, hey, I needed to put all this effort into building this audience, and now you're only seeing the fruits of the labor and the benefits. So it's difficult, right? But I think this podcast is called Work in Progress, and we thought about it, and we. Partly for these reasons that we're kind of talking about. This is why the name of the podcast is what it is. That one, we don't exactly know where we're going, but we're kind of working towards it, and we're figuring it out as we go. Right? And I think most people are. I think again the two things here, Joe and Andy, are interesting because they're like the opposite mindset. Andy, especially there, I usually do something that is no longer viable, then move on to something else.
Like, he also mentioned previously to that because he's got because he knows he has a pension and he can still be reselling when he's retiring. He's chilled with life, and obviously we know Andy a little bit better than just like the comments in the YouTube, and he is very chilled. He's got a very sort of laid back attitude to what he wants to do, but he knows exactly what he wants to do. He's like me. He's got the goal of what he wants to do, but
it's not that. It's not even that. He said he's been planning his retirement 17 years, and it isn't just he's done it. Like the reason he's so cool right now, he spent 17 years sorting it out, and now he's at the point where it's 17 years later, and he's like, "Well, it's done, and so I'm chilled." He did exactly what he set out to do, and kind of set himself up for the future in that way. And that's, I think, when you get there, there's some. It's interesting because I think depending on how you get there, there's either peace or chaos. Because you either get there and like it's everything you hope for, or you get there and it's nothing like you hope for, and then it's like kind of freak out a bit.
Just to finish off, then I've got an interesting. I think we spoke about it briefly before, and I know you definitely have. But like, we've got very different sort of like not mindsets, because I think we both want the same similar things, but like different styles of doing it. Like you're more chilled and I'm more like there. Do you think that when you're said and done and you are like looking towards retirement age, Do you think you can chill and do nothing? Because a lot of the traveling side for me is just going and walking and going to see mountains and lakes and waterfalls and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, is there an element to me? Like I've got a very strong fear that I'm not going to be able to do the things that I wanted to do because my brain's going to be like, I'm bored. I need to do some shit. Like, do you have that worry about like when you eventually said and done it, or
I think I will always follow what I think's interesting.
Yeah,
like, I think there won't be a time where I'm like, if I get to fucking 65 and I'm like, oh, this seems like a fun idea. I will go at least dive into it for a bit. I don't think there's any time. And if, for example, like stupid, like some of my, like you're talking about gaming, like that's previously been my fixation. Like it's like there's been points where I played Overwatch and my only goal was getting better at Overwatch and ranking up, and that's kind of all I put. I don't play casually. I play because I'm interested. I want to do stuff.
Yeah.
And that was my goal then, and then that kind of wear out, and then I do something else. But my fixation might be seen as something like doing nothing. Who knows what it might be? But if something grabs my attention even when I'm at that age where apparently I've got everything set up for me, I don't see myself not following that. Like I think that's generally how I work and how my brain's always worked. And I think when I get to that age, I think the idea of doing nothing is unrealistic a lot of the time because the humans aren't made to be like that. I don't think I'll be the person that like has to be. I think there's a difference between not doing nothing and like still overworking yourself, like being a workaholic still, like not being able to stop working and enjoy other aspects of life. I'll definitely be able to do that. But if I've got something interesting, that is one of the joys of life for me, is that I can follow something that interests me and see where it goes and see how it's progressing and enjoy that accomplishing or that experience, depending on no matter what it is. And I think the thing money does is allow you more access to those opportunities and to feel safe for doing them a lot of the time. Which is interesting. But also, I think I'll struggle more, personally, to plan in the things to experience the other parts of life. So yes. I think I'll struggle to plan to go away, plan to go see the world and make sure those things happen. I think I'll struggle because if they're not inherently interesting me and like in that moment, I find it hard to, again, like I said, hold on to and therefore plan for that future. So hopefully maybe I marry someone who's, super organized in that front. But yeah, I think I'll struggle with that more than anything, to making sure I plan in the things that mean I make the most out of life.
Yeah.
That's what I think I'll struggle with.
I think on that note, we should leave it there, I think.
Yeah. There you go. Thanks for coming along. That was
our therapists for the day.
Bit of a rogue one. But I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know if anyone relates or not. But you heard it all anyway. And thank you very much for coming. We'll see you next week. Join the reseller group. Bye.
Bye.